In the third year of redeeming the gloomy villain, his darkening value still exceeds the standard. He refuses to talk to me and won't let me get close. Even the gifts I gave him were all cut to pieces and thrown away. But when the female lead appears, he would also blush and, with his head lowered, present the work he had carefully prepared. I finally gave up hope. I found the female lead and discussed with her. I'm planning to go abroad. Could you please take care of Rachel at your home from now on? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Rachel ran away from home again. This was already the third time this month. I searched for an afternoon but had no clue. In the end, I had no choice but to call out the system, which was on vacation. No one would be in a good mood when they are suddenly pulled to work overtime. The system was no exception. As soon as it appeared, it started scolding me. Seriously, Maria, you're really the worst host I've ever seen. How long has it been? Rachel's darkening value is still exceeding the standard. Can you tell me how you managed to make him dislike you so much? I lowered my head in silence. The system was right. I was really useless. For a full 3 years, the word Rachel said to me the most was dislike. He dislikes seeing me. He dislikes talking to me. He dislikes me getting close to him. Dislike. Probably seeing my sad expression at the moment, the system felt a bit sorry for me. It sent me an address on my phone and softened its tone. Here. He's here. Don't be too anxious. He won't get lost. I'll first check his current emotional value. The system paused. After a while, it suddenly asked in surprise, what's going on? Why is Rachel's heart rate suddenly accelerating and his darkening value dropping rapidly? Isn't this a sign of being attracted? The system told me. Rachel must have met someone who is very important and special to him. By the time I rushed there, more than half an hour had passed. The sun had set. Rachel was sitting in the pavilion behind the rockery of the old house, holding his drawing board and sketching something on it. On the other side, a girl with a ponytail was standing beside him. She was wearing a white dress, looking cute and lively. She would let out an exclamation from time to time. God, this composition is so perfect. I also study art. I dare say you're definitely a genius. Where do you go to school? My tutor is a director of the European Fine Arts Association. Should I recommend you to him? Of course. I also have contacts with many teachers in domestic art colleges. They will definitely appreciate you very, very much. A genius. That's right. I knew it when I accepted the mission. Rachel is indeed a genius. A top painter that comes along only once in decades. The exhibitions he holds can ignite the artistic enthusiasm of a city. And a casual work he creates when he's bored can fetch an astronomical price at an auction. But such a person. He was diagnosed with the tendency of autism from a very young age. In his teenage years, it gradually developed into a less typical bipolar disorder. Sometimes he is manic and anxious. Sometimes he is gloomy and depressed and can stay silent for days and nights. In high school, the Moses family suddenly encountered an economic crisis, and the company was at risk of bankruptcy. Rachel's parents passed away unexpectedly not long after his birth. There was only an elderly grandfather presiding over the overall situation. The old gentleman couldn't withstand the external pressure and suffered a cerebral infarction and was hospitalized. Before he died, he used the remaining property of the family to find a housekeeper who could take care of his grandson, to take care of Rachel's daily life and psychological problems. Then he asked the other party for help to find a real estate businessman surnamed Zhao. That was a brother who had gone to the countryside as an educated youth with the old man in his early years. And the old man had a life-saving favor towards him. It's just that the Liz family went abroad later, and somehow they lost contact. But he must still remember. Rachel's grandfather coughed twice. His granddaughter Liz and Rachel had a betrothal agreement since they were children. Now that such a big thing has happened to the Moses family, we can only ask them to take Rachel in and take care of him. The voice of the system rang in my ear. Host, you should have guessed it. Right. The girl in the white dress standing beside the little villain now is the female lead who has just returned to the country. Liz. Yes, I guessed it. Because the female lead Liz studies art. In the original text, the housekeeper found by the Moses family wasn't a good person. He was a double dealer, greedy for money, and treated Rachel very badly. After Rachel's family collapsed, he ran away with the money. He left the teenager, whose psychological condition was already extremely poor due to the family's bankruptcy, alone in the wilderness. As for looking for the Liz family, He didn't do such a thing at all. Rachel suffered a lot later. He couldn't even go to school. He worked part-time jobs, earning money bit by bit, and was cheated. One of his legs was even broken by others. Finally, he met a teacher, a true art master in a university. His talent was noticed, and he climbed up from the bottom. Then he was able to become an artist admired by everyone. By that time, the female lead had already become a well-known rising star in the design industry. Rachel finally met Liz. He heard about the betrothal agreement, but at this moment, looking at his bruised and battered body, he no longer had the courage to pursue her. In the ending of the story, the day before the female lead got married, Rachel jumped off the rooftop of a high-rise building. In the suicide note he left, it was written, his life was ruined by that housekeeper. If he had found Liz back then, his life would have been a perfect one without any regrets. In order to change Rachel's fate, after entering this world, I took the place of that housekeeper. In the reset storyline, Rachel's grandfather met me in the orphanage and began to sponsor my education. Later, when my grandfather passed away, he left me some property and asked me to take care of his grandson. So I began to try my best to take care of Rachel. He couldn't manage money. I opened a bank account in his name. I tried to find a reasonable way to manage finances and strive to make the property left by his grandfather last longer. His psychological state wasn't good. I kept reading relevant books and then took him to see experts. He liked painting. Although I'm a science student who knows nothing about art, I still visited nearly 100 exhibitions in a year, just to be able to talk to him more. But even so, Rachel's attitude towards me was still cold and dismissive. It seemed that no matter how hard I tried, he wouldn't allow me to get close to him. Even when his mania flared up, he would rather keep smashing things than allow me to bring the medicine into his studio. The reason was just that I didn't understand art. He didn't want an ordinary and vulgar person like me to break into his creative space. But now, his attitude towards the female lead was completely different. He would seriously listen to her opinions and attitudes towards his paintings and then slowly express his own thoughts. When Rachel finished that painting, he took the work off the drawing board. He handed it to Liz, wanting to give it to her. The tips of his ears seemed to turn slightly red. Can we add each other's contact information? My name is Rachel. Liz was taken aback for a moment. While taking out her phone, she tilted her head and scratched her nose. Why do I seem to have heard your name somewhere? In the original text, the female lead has her own official partner. Even if she meets Rachel later, she won't have any feelings other than friendship. So the system didn't ask me to send the little villain to Liz's side. Instead, it asked me to try to take him away from the main character group and reshape his personality outside the storyline. Try to change his tragic ending. But now, I think, I seem to have messed things up a bit. Rachel still met the female lead ahead of time, and the two of them seemed to hit it off immediately. The system started shouting in my ear, "Go and drag that psychologically dark guy back. My wooden-headed host. If you keep spacing out, compared with the female lead, Rachel will just dislike you even more. You idiot." Oh, right. I should drag Rachel back. Right. I sighed. I forced myself to walk between him and Liz and patted Rachel on the shoulder. I said carefully, "Rachel, so you're here. Let's go home. I've been looking for you all afternoon. The meal is already ready. Aren't you hungry?" When he saw me, Rachel, who had been smiling happily just now, suddenly turned cold. He pursed his lips tightly and looked at me with some annoyance. His brows furrowed at once. Liz, on the other hand, had a very good tone. She turned towards me, blinked her eyes, and there was some curiosity in her eyes. "Do you know Rachel? Are you two friends? Do you have a date tonight?" I was just about to open my mouth to answer her question, but Rachel interrupted me at once. "No." His voice was a bit anxious, as if he was eager to distance himself from me. "Definitely not. She's just the nanny of my family. She's just a child my grandfather picked up from the orphanage. She's not a friend at all." As soon as he finished speaking, I heard the system inhale in embarrassment. Even the female lead Liz was a bit at a loss. She looked at me with an apologetic expression. Then she raised her wrist and looked at her watch to help me out of the awkward situation. "Can't a nanny be a friend? What do you mean by that superior tone? Besides, she has been looking for you all afternoon. You should have said something before going out. Don't be like this in the future, or you'll cause a lot of trouble for others' work." Her voice was gentle, although it was a reproach. It didn't make people angry, She really deserves to be the female lead. Even for a stranger like me whom she has only met once. She is willing to speak up for me kindly and patiently. Thanks to Liz. Rachel, who had been on the verge of a manic-depressive episode just now, was soothed by her again. He lowered his head and obediently packed his things. He slung the drawing board over his shoulder, glanced at me, and strode forward. What are you still spacing out for? Didn't you insist on me going back? If I hadn't appeared suddenly, Rachel could have spent a little more time with Liz. Naturally, he disliked me even more. On the way back, he deliberately distanced himself from me. He complained and questioned me with annoyance. Have you really been looking for me all afternoon? Maria, why are you always so idle? Don't you have your own things to do? Although my grandfather left you a salary, I remember that there isn't much money left in my family. It's not worth you working so hard, is it? Look at that girl just now. She has her own hobbies and talents. Unlike you, who can only revolve around others, like a little tail. It's really annoying. I lowered my head and couldn't say anything in retort. Before the car accident and being chosen by the system, I was just an ordinary person. Now that I'm in this world, I'm neither part of the main character group nor have any special abilities. I don't even have a family. The tuition fee for my university studies also has to be taken from the inheritance left by his grandfather by taking care of Rachel. Even so, I still have to be mocked by him. The system added insult to injury at this moment. Host. Rachel's darkening value has risen again. Just now when he was with the female lead, his emotions were still very stable. It seems that the female lead can make him happier than you. Well, it can actually be guessed. But, since the female lead can soothe his emotions better than me, why do they still need me? A dispensable NPC. Anyway, once the female lead's family heard that the Moses family had gone bankrupt, they were also looking for Rachel. So wouldn't it be a happy ending if I sent Rachel back to the female lead side? Once this idea popped into my mind, I couldn't get rid of it. I ran up to Rachel. I grabbed his sleeve. I asked directly, Rachel, if I resign from this job and no longer stay by your side in the future, and someone else takes care of you, do you think it would be better? It's a rather stupid question, but my language expression has always been poor. He looked up at me and fell silent. After a while, he turned cold. He sneered. Maria, are you crazy? Do you think you're some indispensable important person? If you want to leave, then leave now. I don't need you at all. Actually, I think so too. So that night, I made the decision to give up on Rachel and told the system about it. The system didn't make things difficult for me. It evaluated Rachel's current mental state. It quickly thought that my approach made some sense. Indeed, the female lead side is more suitable for him. Send Rachel to Liz. I'll give you her contact information. I'll arrange a new mission for you later. After saying these words, the system disappeared temporarily. I glanced at my phone. I added her. Hello, I'm the girl you met today. May I ask if you are looking for someone named Rachel? Just like in the original text, the female lead's family was indeed looking for Rachel. After her grandfather heard the news that something had happened to the Moses family, he specifically asked his son to bring his granddaughter back to the country. So soon, Liz replied to my message. Rachel, did I hear it right? It's really these three characters. The Moses family that is engaged in art collection and trading. We are indeed looking for him. His grandfather once saved my grandfather's life. If he is having difficulties in his life now, our family can offer help. I paused. I organized my words and still replied. Rachel's mental state isn't particularly good. The doctor suggests that he'd better not be alone. I'm going to resign from my job. Would you be willing to take him in? The female lead agreed quickly. Just like her character in the original book, she was still that kind, open-minded girl who always considered others in the first place. No wonder most of the characters in the book would fall for her. The Liz family held a small family meeting. After hearing about Rachel's current situation, they unanimously agreed to take him in and let him live in Liz's home. They would find the most authoritative psychiatrist in the industry to treat him. Then they would contact the art tutor at the female lead's current school for him to have systematic study. This was much better than his original path in the plot where he struggled alone and finally became famous. It was also 100 times more reliable than being taken care of by someone like me who had little experience and ability. Thinking of these, there was really nothing to worry about anymore. I made an agreement with Liz. In about a week, I would send Rachel to the villa of Liz's family. During this period of time, they would prepare a room and buy daily necessities. They would also see if they could contact a doctor. They would get everything ready in advance. As for me, I was an insignificant person. I went back to my bedroom. I sat in front of the desk and opened the drawer. There was an application form issued by the university's academic affairs office inside. Not long ago, the school and other partner institutions launched an exchange and cultivation program. Students who were interested could fill out the form and sign up by themselves. If accepted, they could not only study at another university for 2 years but also have priority in applying for scholarships. This was actually very suitable for a poor person like me who had to work to earn tuition fees. However, because of Rachel in the past, I had never considered this matter. But now, it seemed that I only had to think about myself. I picked up the pen, thought for a while. Then I wrote my name on the application form. Since that night when I asked Rachel if I should resign from my job, the two of us had entered a Cold War period. He hadn't talked to me for a long time. We lived in an apartment, but on different floors and in different rooms. Occasionally when we met in the living room, he would just give me a cold glance. His expression was gloomy and impatient. It seemed that he was even annoyed to see me. If it were before, I would definitely not be able to stand this kind of cold violence and would have eagerly followed him to try to please him. But now I couldn't. I had too many things of my own to be busy with. I had to perfect my resume and send it to the academic affairs office. I also had to pack my luggage and put away my things in the apartment. I had some deposits in the bank and also had to withdraw them. These were the rewards I deserved for taking care of Rachel during his 3 years in high school, and there was nothing to be embarrassed about taking them. Perhaps because I was busily packing things in the apartment and it disturbed Rachel. He rarely came out of the study. He slammed the door shut and stood in front of me. He put the water cup heavily on the table. His face showed displeasure. I realized that Rachel's mood was probably not good again, and I quickly stuffed the materials in my hand into the drawer. I apologized softly. Sorry. Was the noise too loud? I didn't mean it. I won't disturb you again. The teenager opposite still frowned. He lowered his head and his gaze swept over the suitcase at my feet. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he pursed his lips and remained silent. He picked up his phone and the water cup and went back to his room. This time the door of the study didn't close completely. After a while, Rachel's voice came out. He was having a voice call with Liz. He mentioned me during the conversation. What is Maria doing every day? She's rummaging through her things noisily. Why does it seem like she's going to run away from home, in order to leave smoothly? I had previously asked Liz in advance to help me hide the news of my resignation from Rachel. I would tell him about this after the exchange quota between the schools was confirmed. On the other end of the phone, Liz obviously hesitated for a moment. She let out an sound and diverted the topic away from me. She's probably just tidying up her things normally. Hey, let's not talk about this. Do you have anything to do next weekend? Come to my house. I want to discuss something with you. My family will also be there. I'll introduce you to them then. This apartment was a rented house. When Rachel left, the lease would almost expire. I would also move back to the dormitory. Anyway, we only had about a week left to be together. In the remaining days, I didn't want to have a cold war or quarrel anymore. So I started to take the initiative to ease the relationship. I organized Rachel's paint and painting tools for him as I used to. I made his favorite dessert cakes for him. When I came back from school, I would also buy some art magazines from the newly opened second-hand bookstore. I would write these down little by little and deduct the expenses from my salary. Although I was in charge of Rachel's money, I wouldn't take an extra penny, nor would I wrong myself, probably because of my attempts to make amends during this period. Rachel's attitude also gradually softened, until the weekend, the day of his departure. I brought back the last magazine for him. He came out of the study, stood beside me, and flipped through the pages. He rarely initiated a conversation with me. Liz will drive to pick me up later and take me to her house. We made an appointment. There's something to talk about. It probably won't take too long. How about coming to find me at 2 or 3 o'clock? I remember we made an appointment with the doctor for a consultation in the afternoon. I looked up. In my sight, Rachel was wearing a light blue shirt and jeans. He had dressed himself neatly and cleanly, which was rare for him. It was just that the tie around his neck was a bit crooked. It was obvious that he attached great importance to meeting the female lead's family, but his actions were a bit clumsy. I sighed. I gently shook my head. I'm not going. You know the location of the hospital. You can go there by yourself in the future. Okay. Then I took a step forward. I untied his tie and tied it again. Relax. Liz's family are all very nice. Look down at how I'm doing it. Remember it. It's very simple. You have to learn to do this kind of thing by yourself in the future. You can't always trouble others. Rachel lowered his eyes and his gaze gently rested on me. I didn't notice his gradually strange expression. I just looked at my watch. There were still more than 10 minutes left. We probably wouldn't see each other again after this. Although I was 3 years older than him and seemed to have always played a role similar to an elder sister. But the few years of getting along with him were indeed a memory that I couldn't erase. I stood on tiptoe, trying to reach his hair, and ruffled it. Rachel. I smiled, taking it as a farewell. Although Liz's family are all very nice. After all, it's not the Moses family's own home. So don't lose your temper as you used to. And don't smash things or throw cups at will. And you should also change your living habits occasionally. You can put away the painting tools after using them. Don't throw the ink around. And put the magazines on the bookshelf. Otherwise, you won't be able to find them next time. And no one will remember for you. Ah, and that bakery you often go to. You know where it is. Right. The next time you go there by yourself. Rachel suddenly interrupted me. Why should I go by myself? He was as tense as a wound-up spring. Why should I go by myself? What about you? Maria, aren't you the one who always tidies up the painting tools? And you're the one who buys the bread too. He pursed his lips and stared at me intently. He enunciated each word slowly. Grandfather gave you money just to let you take care of me. Maria, can you fulfill your duty? My heart suddenly shrank a little. Sure enough, after getting along with Rachel for so long, he only regarded me as a servant who was paid to take care of him. What friendship! What redemption! What mutual support! They were all my wishful thinking. I tugged at my lips and didn't retort. The next moment, Liz's call came in. She should have arrived. And her voice was cheerful and relaxed. Rachel, come downstairs. My family is all waiting to meet you at the villa. Don't keep them waiting too long. I'll show you my studio after dinner. Hurry up. Not to mention Rachel, the second male lead who was destined to be attracted to the female lead. Even I, an NPC who suddenly appeared, was warmed by her sunny personality. So soon, Rachel ignored me. He showed a rare gentle smile. He put on his coat in a hurry, grabbed his phone, and walked out quickly. But at the moment he opened the door, it seemed that he suddenly remembered something. He turned back and glanced at me again. He gripped the handrail. Slowly, he said it again. Remember to come and find me in the afternoon. We'll go to the hospital together. You know that. I don't like that doctor. I can't understand his accent. And you're the one who writes down the precautions. You're also the one who queues up to buy the medicine. He softened his tone a bit. You promised to stay and take care of me. Keep your word. Okay. Sometimes I think, is it because Rachel's grandfather had kindness towards me that he always didn't care about my attitude and thoughts? I had clearly said that I wouldn't accompany him to the hospital in the afternoon. But Rachel still seemed to have heard nothing. He still emphasized his willfulness as if nothing had happened. I exhaled and shook my head. Anyway, I was about to leave. So I put these things aside. I took out my phone. I sent a message to Liz. The key to the apartment is under the flower pot outside the door. The lease will probably expire at the end of next month. Rachel doesn't have many things. If he wants to take them away, he can tidy them up quickly. I've written down other things that need attention in the notebook. You can see it when you enter my bedroom. Liz was probably driving. After a while, when I had already left the community and was dragging my suitcase towards the school, I received her text message. I see. Maria, thank you so much for taking care of Rachel during this period. The Moses family has kindness towards my family. So you've also helped us. Maria, if you need anything in the future, feel free to contact me. A person as excellent and kind as you will definitely achieve your wishes and have a bright future. I thought, Liz, you will too. Not only because she is the female lead, but also because she always treats people sincerely. Perhaps it was really because of the female lead's blessing to me that it worked. As soon as I hung up the phone, I received a reply from the institution to my application letter. The other school had agreed to my exchange request. I could go to that southern city to report within this week. I found the contact number at the bottom and called my future tutor. Hello. I want to go to the school to report now and start studying in the laboratory as early as possible. Is that okay? Maria was only 3 years older than Rachel. When Rachel's father passed away, Maria was just a female student who had been admitted to university not long ago. At that time, Rachel was 15 years old and preparing to enter the art department of high school. He was organizing his own album in the study when suddenly a phone call came. He was called to the hospital. The old man's health was already very poor, and he might only have a few days left. The Moses family was in a precarious situation, and almost all of their business partners, friends, and relatives had left them. Just such a girl who didn't seem very mature stood by the bedside. She ran back and forth like a nurse. Then, because of a word from the old man, she took on the responsibility of taking care of Rachel. That day Rachel glanced at her. He thought, could she really do it? He wasn't in good health, but after all, he didn't need such a girl to protect him. But in the following years, Rachel himself didn't expect that he would become more and more dependent on this girl whom he had only met a few times. When he had a high fever in the middle of the night, it was Maria who braved the heavy rain to go to the pharmacy to buy medicine for him. When he had a manic depressive episode and was gesturing with a knife at his wrist, it was also Maria who rushed over desperately at the risk of getting injured. She snatched the knife from him. She pulled him back from the brink of death. When she was alone, huddled in the studio working on her drawings, it was also Maria who came to pick him up with small cakes time and time again. Although Rachel always covered up his paintings and wouldn't let her see them. But Maria didn't seem to mind. She sat on the stool beside him and asked him casually, as if having a chat. Rachel, which university do you want to apply for? Rachel didn't say anything at that time, but an idea flashed through his mind. Stay in this city. Stay by Maria's side. No matter whether she stayed to take care of him because of his grandfather or for the money. But as long as he became very powerful, famous and wealthy in the future, they wouldn't be separated. You'll be signing up for the college entrance examination soon. Right. Rachel, I heard that both your art scores and academic scores are very high. Is there any university you want to go to? Liz leaned over. After arriving at the villa, she took Rachel to visit her studio. They accidentally started talking about this topic. Liz studied at a university abroad. She had just returned to the country during the vacation and was helping the elderly in her family look for the traces of the Moses family. By the way, she would have to go back abroad again after the vacation ended. Rachel was lost in thought for a moment. Suddenly, Maria's figure appeared in front of his eyes again. After a moment of silence, he said, I'll choose a school here. I don't want to go to too much trouble. After hearing such an answer, Liz's eyes widened suddenly. A school here? There aren't any good art colleges here at all. Maria's university is very good, but it's a science and engineering university. You'll be buried here. It's better to go abroad with me. Rachel thought that Liz's state today was a bit off. Go abroad? Where would he get the money to go abroad? He glanced at his watch and thought that the tour of the studio was almost over. He wondered if he should send Maria a WeChat message to ask her to come over earlier. Just as he finished typing, he heard the sound of a car braking coming from the gate of the villa. Liz grabbed his hand and pulled him outside. My parents are here. There's something you need to know. I'll let them tell you. Only then did Rachel know. It turned out that what his grandfather had told him about having a betrothal agreement when he was a child wasn't a lie. That person was Liz. But at the moment he heard the news, he didn't seem to have any feelings about it. He even thought it was a bit ridiculous. What era was it now? And they were still doing arranged marriages. Wasn't it funny? Liz's family seemed to think the same way. Liz's father made it clear. Elders shouldn't interfere in the emotional matters of their children, and they wouldn't sacrifice Liz's future to fulfill the old man's wish. But they still had to repay the favor. They had heard about the current situation of the Moses family and knew that Rachel's life wasn't easy now, so they were willing to take him into Liz's home. They would bear the expenses for his future life, medical treatment and education. The property your grandfather left you is still yours. Of course, but if you want, you can study abroad with Liz. You don't have to worry about the tuition fees anymore. What a great thing. Except for one thing. Almost reflexively, Rachel mentioned that name. What about Maria? The two elders looked at each other, obviously having never heard of her. Only Liz sighed and walked out from behind. Looking at Rachel, she said slowly, Maria won't take care of you anymore. She resigned. Rachel, everyone has their own things to do. She also wants to see other cities, participate in research projects at other universities, and meet more friends. You can't always tie her to your side. If you really need nursing because of your illness, we can also pay to hire a more professional one for you. Rachel stood up suddenly. He couldn't listen to anything about resignation, leaving, or having more friends. Maria just needed to stay with him. That's all. Rachel quickly took out his phone. Only then did he realize. The WeChat message he had just sent didn't go through. A red exclamation mark appeared abruptly in the chat box. He had been blocked. It was already past 2 o'clock. In the past, she was never late for things like going to the hospital. It was as if something had broken. Rachel felt his mind go blank with a bang. He ran outside suddenly. No. He had to get her back. When I dragged my luggage and got on the train going south, the system that I hadn't seen for a long time finally appeared again. The last time it appeared, it agreed to my request to give up accompanying Rachel. It said it would go back and apply for a similar task for me. I waited and waited. Just when I thought it had almost forgotten about me, the system showed me the new target. Here, it's still a redemption mission, but this time the target is just a minor NPC who doesn't appear much. So the reward for success will be a little less than that for Rachel, but the amount of money will definitely be enough for you to spend. It coughed twice and became more serious. Sam. He's the same age as Rachel and is also an art student. I'll send you his location. It's in the city you're about to go to. I suggest you hurry over there as soon as you get off the train. Otherwise, he might not make it before you two meet. The location the system gave me was a high school on the outskirts of the city. Worried that the redemption target would really have an accident. After getting off the train, instead of going to the school to report, I directly dragged my luggage to the mission location. It didn't take much time at all. I saw that teenager at a glance. Sam. He was lying prostrate under the basketball hoop, surrounded by several high school students who looked like hooligans. Someone pressed a cigarette butt on his clothes and then stepped hard on his shoulder. They were swearing foul words. Who do you think you are? Last time, Brother Chen asked you to help him during the exam. Why didn't you? I heard you can draw. If we chop off this hand of yours, can you still draw? Soon, that person really took out a knife from behind and waved it forward, stabbing at him. I remembered the information the system had told me. This teenager named Sam, like Rachel, was also a genius with great imagination for colors and composition. If something really happened to his hand, even if he could survive, was the future life really what he wanted? The next moment, I almost ran over without thinking. While taking out my phone and dialing the police, I pretended to shout behind me. Police! Police! There's a fight here. I saw someone with a knife. It's right here. Hearing the word, police, those little hooligans all widened their eyes and scattered in all directions like birds and beasts. Soon, there was only Sam left on the playground. The faint yellow light of the street lamp shone on him, casting a light halo around him. I walked over slowly. I saw the knife that had fallen to the ground. In the original text, those bullying hooligans were so angry that they stabbed the knife into Sam's palm. He became disabled from then on and could never hold a paintbrush again. Many years later, when Rachel broke into the art world with his paintings and became a dazzling rising star that everyone was paying attention to, the art craze began to sweep across the country. Some media wanted to discover painters who, like Rachel, had extraordinary talent and ability since childhood. Somehow, someone found Sam's paintings from before. They even brought them in front of Rachel. They said it was the other person's work from when he was a teenager and wanted Rachel to give some comments. At that time, Rachel seemed to have only said one sentence. Is it useful to paint well when you were a child? Why doesn't he have any works now? Can't he paint anymore? Has he run out of talent? After all, it's just that his talent isn't enough. Sam looked at the newspaper, shook his wrist. He gave a bitter smile. If he could still hold a pen, what would he be like now? I raised my foot and kicked the knife aside. The teenager barely raised his head. He should have been running out of energy. And even the slightest movement took a great deal of effort. But even so, he still tried his best to smile at me, as if he wanted to say thank you. The wind blew through the night sky. Somehow, even though it was the first time we met, I had a premonition. This teenager named Sam was different from Rachel. He should be a gentle and introverted person. I squatted down and waited for the police car with him. I talked to him at the same time to keep him alert. What's your name? Where's your home? And your parents? Do I need to call them first? Let them pick you up at the hospital later. Sam opened his mouth, but his voice was hoarse. I listened carefully, but I didn't hear clearly. Instead, the system started chattering and giving me instructions at this moment. Sam is an orphan. He doesn't have parents. He's the redemption target. What kind of good family do you expect him to have? Host. This isn't the point. Have you heard of a very famous art master with the surname G? He teaches at a university in this city. Listen to me. Take a few of Sam's usual paintings there and let him criticize and give some guidance. He will definitely appreciate and like them very much. Sam's college entrance examination results aren't bad either. If he goes to study at his university, he will also help with the tuition fees. Professor Tim. The system rambled on a lot. I suddenly realized something. Professor Tim. Wasn't he the teacher in the original text who discovered Rachel's talent and helped him get out of the quagmire? If Sam also became his student, would the two of them run into each other? Soon. I denied this idea. No, they wouldn't. Rachel wouldn't follow his original tragic, dark and arduous path anymore. He had met the female lead. With the help of Liz's family, he should go abroad to study and see a broader world. The system was right. The professor was indeed quite impressed with Sam's paintings. Not only that, but he showed obvious amazement and admiration for several of them. So, as a matter of course, he strongly invited Sam to study at the art college where he taught. And coincidentally, Sam's college entrance examination results weren't bad either. So the development next became simpler. In the following time, Sam entered the school and studied under the teacher. His talent was gradually realized. His abilities were revealed little by little, and he received more and more attention. And my life also became better. After publishing 2 core papers with the research group, I successfully got the opportunity to continue my studies. I stayed at the exchange school and followed a well-known academic supervisor in the industry. Everything seemed to become easier, compared with the time when I was with Rachel. At that time, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make him break away from his irritable and gloomy state even a little bit. But Sam, it seemed that after that night, the little hooligans were driven away. The fate of being bullied was changed. His hand wasn't injured, so everything was completely different. After my thesis won a major award at an academic conference, Sam's first art exhibition was also held under the guidance of his teacher. As expected, as a new artist with both talent and hard work, as soon as the art exhibition came into the public eye, it almost immediately caused a huge sensation. Many media described his talent as a genius that came along only once in 100 years. Whether they were practitioners in this circle or just art lovers with a slight interest in art, everyone was constantly snapping up the tickets for the art exhibition. They hoped to participate in this art craze. The reporters were even more eager. Everyone hoped to get the first exclusive interview with Sam. But of course, most of them were turned away by Professor Tim. Come to think of it, Mr. Tim had never been married. He had devoted all his energy and enthusiasm to the art cause. Although he seemed fierce to outsiders, he was really nice to his students and friends. Even I, a guest who occasionally went to their studio to chat. He would take out the local specialties from his hometown and entertain me specially. I always thought I was benefiting from Sam, but he shook his head. He told me it wasn't the case. Mr. Tim has a really bad temper. He only shows a good face to people with an artistic sense. Maria. He thinks that although you can't paint, you have a high level of appreciation and the talent to be a connoisseur. Huh? I extended a finger and pointed at my face. I said in surprise. Me. What's more, Sam's expression was particularly serious. No wonder I was surprised. I had been disliked by Rachel too many times before. He said I didn't understand composition, didn't know how to color, and didn't understand various concepts, propositions, and expressions. It seemed that there was a huge chasm between our worlds that I couldn't cross no matter what. Unexpectedly, it was an elder who had no special connection with me. He suddenly showed affirmation and admiration for me, as if afraid that I wouldn't believe it. Sam added, "Really, Mr. Tim's birthday party is the day after tomorrow, and he asked me to bring you along. I heard that he has accepted a new student. It's estimated that this time it will be very lively. Generally, only Mr. Tim's students and his closest friends can attend his birthday party. This was the first time I received such an invitation. Besides being expectant, I suddenly became curious about that newly admitted disciple, because the professor was already quite old. After recruiting Sam as his student, he no longer took the initiative to teach other students, no matter how good the admission grades were or whether they were relatives or children of some leaders. What's more, now, in a few more years, he would retire. After arriving at the party early, Sam pulled out a chair for me. He whispered a few words to introduce the situation to me. It was a while ago when Mr. Tim attended a conference and suddenly met him in another place. I heard that the teenager's works are extremely rich in imagination and he is very talented. But it seems that he is in a very down and out state. At that time, he was selling paintings on the street. It was very cold, and not many people paid attention to him. He was dressed shabbily, and it seemed that his health wasn't very good either. He has a slight limp in his leg. It seems that he has suffered a lot. I let out an "ah," and instinctively asked in reply, "Is he that pitiful?" Sam leaned towards me. He showed a smile like a puppy. "So I'm really grateful to you, Maria. If it weren't for you saving me back then, I would be in that pitiful state now." Just as Sam finished saying these words, his senior brothers and sisters happened to come in noisily, carrying gifts and wine. These people usually liked to tease Sam, their junior brother. So soon they surrounded us. "Hey, what are you whispering about? Let us listen too. What are you listening for? You're not ashamed to listen to what a couple is saying. Look at what you're saying. We're all part of Mr. Tim's big family. Why distinguish between you and me? Am I right?" Junior brother and his significant other. The conversation was getting more and more ridiculous. I quickly waved my hands, but I still couldn't stop the enthusiasm of these senior brothers and sisters for teasing. What was even more annoying was Sam. He didn't refute either. He just giggled. After more than 10 minutes, Mr. Tim appeared, and the atmosphere calmed down a bit. The old gentleman walked in with a smile, wearing a long gray windbreaker. There was a teenager following behind him with his head lowered. It could be seen that he did have a slight limp in his leg and walked with a little difficulty, as if he had something on his mind. He wouldn't take the initiative to look at people. It wasn't until the teacher patted him on the shoulder that he raised his face and softly let out an So I finally saw what he looked like. Rachel. The next moment, Rachel suddenly leaned towards me. His gaze looked straight over. This gaze was too naked, as if it had directly crossed the few years that separated us. He softly pronounced my name, enunciating each word clearly. "Maria, you're here." The voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone to hear. I saw some people looking in my direction, showing curious looks. Even Mr. Tim was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. Then he pulled Rachel one step towards Sam and me. "Do you know each other? That's great. Maria, just help me introduce Rachel and Sam to each other later. Their talents are very similar, and they can learn from each other. Then I don't have to bother about it privately. Speaking of you two, Sam and Maria." He coughed twice. After a moment, he suddenly showed a meaningful smile. "Sam, can you catch up with Maria beside you? You come to my office every day to pour out your heart about your unrequited love to me, an old man who has been single for 60 years. I'm telling you, I can't stand it anymore. Maria, if you have pity on me, if it really doesn't work, then..." Before he could finish speaking, suddenly a figure flashed by quickly. Rachel almost went crazy and grabbed Sam's collar. "How dare you covet Maria? What the hell are you? Do you deserve it? I'm warning you to stay away from her." The whole birthday party ended unhappily. Rachel almost overturned the table and smashed all the wine brought by his senior brothers and sisters onto the ground. First, when no one was paying attention, he punched Sam in the face. After being pulled apart by everyone, he then held a piece of glass and gritted his teeth at the teacher. "Why are you trying to match Maria with him? Don't you know that she's mine? Mine. I've been looking for her for so long, but you hid her from me." Mr. Tim was already old and had a bad heart. Seeing this scene, he almost trembled all over and was about to faint. Someone directly ran downstairs to find the security guards and called the police. The situation was then brought under control. The teacher sat on the chair and took the quick-acting heart-relieving pills he brought. He looked up at Rachel, who was being controlled by the police. Their eyes met. Mr. Tim sighed and covered his face. He rarely showed such a disappointed expression. "Don't come here again in the future. Although you are very talented, I can't teach a madman here." Mr. Tim said he wanted to be alone and asked all of us to leave first. The birthday party ended like this. Sam was injured, but he still insisted on sending me back first. When we passed by Rachel at the door, he reached out his hand, seemingly wanting to grab my sleeve, but he was scolded by the police and dragged back. How could Rachel have become like this? No, something was wrong. When I left, he had clearly found Liz and started a new life. Wasn't he supposed to be cultivated by Liz's family, then go abroad to study, receive systematic education, and shine brightly? I really couldn't figure it out. I quickly called out the system. It started taking a leave of absence when Sam's and my development was gradually getting on track. It slowly disappeared and didn't show up. It said it wanted to make up for all the vacations it had missed before. This time, I somehow caught it while it was enjoying the sunset on some beach. The system's tone was as bad as ever. Isn't the task for Sam almost completed? Host. I said the payment will take some time. Don't be in a hurry. The economy isn't doing well now. Don't rush. Oh, no. Probably after retrieving the things that had just happened in my mind. After a burst of complaining, the system suddenly choked. Oh, no. Rachel. I haven't paid attention to his situation. How did he become like this again? Isn't this exactly the same as the tragic state in the original text when he was deceived by the vicious housekeeper and lost everything? Yes. It seemed that everything had returned to the starting point. The system quickly found out what Rachel had experienced in the past few years and presented it to me. It turned out that he really didn't go abroad. In fact, he didn't even live in Liz's house for a single day. From the moment Liz told him that Maria had resigned and left his side, he ran out of Liz's villa. Rachel thought, Maria must be having a little temper tantrum. He had to go home and wait for her. Otherwise, when she came back and saw that there was no one at home, he didn't know how angry she would be. Rachel deliberately ignored the obviously empty apartment and stayed in the room alone for a few more days. Every time there was a sound in the corridor, he would raise his head reflexively and wait expectantly for a while. Then as the footsteps gradually faded away, until more than a week later, Liz came with the landlord. He then knew that the lease of the house had expired and the next tenant was coming soon. He couldn't live here anymore, and Maria really wasn't coming back. Liz looked at him helplessly. Our whole family is going back to Europe today. I'll ask you one last time. Do you want to come with us? Rachel took a step back. He shook his head vigorously. No, he wouldn't leave. He still had to find Maria. The system sighed. That's how it is. I could probably imagine the development later. Although Rachel was already an adult, he only had artistic talent and it was actually very difficult for him to live on his own. After I blocked him, he had no idea how to find me. When he went to my university, he didn't even know which college I was in. He could only stop people on the road and ask them. Unexpectedly, he really found a classmate who had heard my name, but that person only knew my name and didn't know me well at all. So when Rachel asked him about me, he hesitated for a moment. Oh, she went to another city for an exchange project. It should be one of the universities in the Southwest. Do you have something to do with her? A single word can make a world of difference. Rachel withdrew the money from the bank and really took the train to that city. But he didn't find me. Instead, he was deceived and bullied, and his mental illness recurred repeatedly. He didn't have much property left, because I was constantly talking to the system in my mind. I didn't pay much attention to Sam on the way back. It wasn't until we reached downstairs of the apartment and he gently tugged at my sleeve that I came back to my senses a bit. Maria, were you thinking about someone else just now? Sam's tone seemed a bit aggrieved. Is it that classmate named Rachel? Is he the person you took care of before? I had mentioned to Sam before. I said that because I received sponsorship when I first entered university, I once took care of a teenager for 3 years. In fact, it was just a short sentence. I didn't expect Sam to remember it until now. Looking at his slightly red and anxious expression, I suddenly had a mischievous mood. I wanted to tease him. Ah, the next moment, I deliberately took a step forward. I got closer to him. I tilted my head. Really, I was thinking, what did Mr. Tim mean by those words at the dinner? Why did he say that you have a crush on someone? Who is that person? Can't you tell me? I'm not stupid. Sam's crush. Except for not saying the words, like, directly. There were really too many clues. When I was sick, he was so anxious that he couldn't sleep for several nights and stayed by my bedside all the time. When I was giving a speech at an academic conference, he clapped his hands so hard that they almost turned red. And during the thank you speech at the art exhibition, when the reporter asked him if he had a girlfriend, even though there were so many people around, he stared at me without blinking. He just wouldn't look away. To be honest, I originally didn't think about developing any extra feelings with a mission target at all. But Sam was really nice. It wasn't just because he was a genius and would be very successful in the future, but also because he was gentle enough and considerate enough. When there were arguments and conflicts, he was also willing to make concessions for my research and life. So, why not give it a try? One shouldn't be stuck in the same place in life. He raised his head. His eyes were burning with passion, and he was almost trembling all over. His voice was also shaking. Maria, you know that I've always liked you. What I want to know is, are you willing to accept my feelings? I smiled. I hugged him and rested my chin on Sam's shoulder. Okay, Sam, I accept. That night, Sam took a photo of the two of us holding hands. He posted it on his Twitter. This was the first post he had made since he opened his social media account. Since he was very popular in the art circle now, this Twitter post became popular immediately. His senior brothers and sisters came to leave messages one after another. Goodness, Sam really managed to get the girl like a toad licking the meat of a swan. Hey, how can you talk about your junior brother like that? Pay attention to your words. The second senior brother is just jealous. He's almost 40 and still single. He's definitely going to follow the teacher's footsteps. What do you know? I call this sacrificing myself for art. Even Mr. Tim called me. Sam and I both have no parents. Mr. Tim doesn't have any children. He is just like our parent. Hearing him say that, unconsciously, my eyes turned red. After hanging up his call, it took a while for my mood to finally calm down. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door outside the apartment. I went over to check. I found that it was Rachel. I rented this apartment near the school. Sometimes when I did research too late and didn't want to disturb my roommates, I simply slept outside. I guessed that he would come looking for me. There was no point in hiding, so I might as well be straightforward. It would be better for us to talk things out. But after I opened the door, Rachel didn't come in. He was still standing in the corridor. He held the door frame with his hand to maintain his balance. I remembered what the system said. That was after he met a swindler who claimed to be able to help him find me. After being cheated out of all his money, he wanted to take revenge on the other person but had his left leg broken, leaving him disabled. I averted my eyes. I didn't want to look at his current state. The next moment, I heard Rachel's soft words in my ear. Maria, I came here just to ask you one thing. People say that you have a lover and are together with Sam, whom I met at my teacher's birthday party that day. Is this true? There was nothing to hide about this. Almost everyone around me knew it. I nodded and let out an after a long time. So long that I thought Rachel had nothing more to say and should be leaving. He lowered his head. He bent slightly and his voice was very low. I see. I'm really grateful for the days when you took care of me. My temper was so bad back then, but you still stayed by my side. I'm leaving now. I wish you happiness. Maria. Dislike. This was the last sentence I said to Rachel, and it was also the last time I saw him. The next time I heard news about Rachel was in the social section of the newspaper. In a small news gap, he had swallowed a large number of sleeping pills and committed suicide in his rental house. A few weeks later, the landlord came to the door to urge the rent payment. That's when they found out about his death. Rachel had no friends and no relatives. The police couldn't find any contacts. The last call was made to the senior brothers and sisters who had called the police to report his causing trouble and to Mr. Tim. After all, they might have really become fellow apprentices. Everyone still decided to contribute some money together to bury Rachel. Sam and I also went to the police station together. When we rushed there, Rachel's body had already been covered with a white cloth. Mr. Tim handed me a piece of letter paper. He said it was the suicide note left by Rachel before his death. For me, there were only a few sentences on it. Maria, I've never told you. The few years I spent with you were the happiest and most joyful years of my life. I really regret it. If I hadn't been so stubborn and difficult, if I hadn't always refused you, if I hadn't run away from home, if I hadn't met Liz, we were still living in that apartment. Would my life have been a perfect one without any regrets?